EQUUS Film and Arts Festival panels with our first panel this morning, our Meet the EQUUS authors. So we have, oh my gosh, Terry Farley, we have Mike Cassidy, and we have sitting in for Darlene Ford, we have her husband, Russell. Randall, their son Russell, I'm sorry, is out with out with the horses. It's been a long couple days already. But anyway, we're going to turn it over to our panelists, and they can introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves, and then they'll start talking to you about the name of the panel is So You Want to Ride a Horse Book. So here you go.
Okay, so I'm Randall Ford. Author M.D. Ford is my wife. She started riding, she grew up rodeoing in Arizona and can't so much rodeo anymore, so she decided to write children's picture books about it. This book right here is book 6 and 7. The most recent one is Day with the Rodeo Royalty. Her goal is to bring awareness and attention to rodeo with the youngest generation. She talked about it for a long time, and back in 2019, I was moving a whole bunch of gear from one scout camp to another scout camp, and she came with me and started talking about it, and I said, look, put up or shut up. And so she did. And she started writing books, and the first one was published in 2020, and she's come back to life again in her own. And she's very excited and happy to be doing it. And we have about 5 more in this series, and she just is very excited about bringing this attention and awareness to rodeo.
Good morning. My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm from Kentucky. One of the few times I just go that route. I have relatives out on the Rosebud Sioux Reservation, and the foundation of my horsemanship actually comes from my uncle Albert Whitehorse. What transpired was I got involved with horses at a young age back. My parents had gone out to the Rosebud to do the roots thing back in the 60s. And I got involved with horses through my entire life. And then in 2017, a young lady, I was at a powwow, and a young lady walked up to me and she says, "Are you Papa Mike Cassidy?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I've seen a couple of your videos. I really like the way you work with horses." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. I only got 2 out on YouTube." So I went over and we went through this dissertation. I couldn't do it. I was 2.5 hours away. But I finally told her, I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll go over and I'll assess your horse." She said, "Would you do that?" I go, "Yeah." She said, "Well, there's one more thing." "Well, what's the one more thing?" She says, "It's a Mustang. You got a Mustang for your child, 14-year-old child, who just signed up for the 4-H equestrian program, and she's going to try to ride this Mustang." And the lady says, "Yeah, but it's free." And she got from the rescue. I said, "Well, guess why?" So I got involved with them in 2017. I did spend a couple hours working with that Mustang and came home, and my second mistake in that month was telling my daughter I actually worked with a Mustang. And I told her the story of how it all came together, because when I got done with the Mustang, basically the Mustang followed all over the Stoke Arena. Things really went much better than I expected after 2 hours worth of work. April, my daughter, says, "Well, we need to get a Mustang." I said, "No, we don't." "Yeah, Dad, we do." "No, we don't." So in 2017, we got our first Mustang, went to Ewing, Illinois. We got a totally untouched Mustang. And I applied everything that I knew, which was nearly enough. But it took us 34 days to put a saddle on him. And his name is One Horse's Journey. His barn name is Journey. And he's still with us today. And I've gone through this process of developing a training method. It's called The Way. The trying to develop that relationship to the point that now we can start working on different things and progress. And it's taken me till 2023 to feel absolutely comfortable about the way. And I was here this time last year as a Mustang. And I had a pretty challenging time looking, but we'll talk about the outcome on that later. But that's what has brought me full circle to write the book, and I'll explain that a little bit later.
Looks like we've got a good selection of writers for you to ask questions for, because we've got a really young book that's fiction and nonfiction, and then I'm kind of in the middle. I write the Phantom Stallion series. I write some other stuff too, but the books I brought with me are the Phantom Stallion series. My name's Terry Farley, and I'm from Nevada. The north part of Nevada, up in the mountains, not the south part with the neon. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and the only horses I was around were stable horses, and I had debilitating asthma. But once a month, my parents would just figure they were going to be up all night with me, and they'd take me to the stable and let me ride. And I worked that into finally, because it was expensive to pay just for now, nothing stalls, and I could ride 1 hour for every hour I cleaned things up. So that was my horse roots. But when I moved to Nevada, I knew about Wild Horse Annie, but I haven't been around the wild horses. When I moved to northern Nevada, I started working with people who were out on the range photographing the wild horses. And also I have a journalism degree and an English degree. And so I was teaching full time, and I started writing horse books. And I was so fortunate. I was covering a cattle drive that went 10 days across the Black Rock Desert in Nevada, actually moving a big herd of cattle the old-fashioned way. They were trying to make it a dude operation, and it did not work. The cow boss was a cow boss, and he really didn't have a whole lot of tolerance for, well, there was a surgeon who paid his money. He went through 3 horses in 3 days going, there's just something wrong with this horse. Well, yeah. And so that ghost horse just started taking over my brain. And so for over the 10 days of the drive, I was thinking, what if he was a real horse? What if he was a Mustang, which he almost certainly was. He was out in the middle of everything. Anyway, I wrote this book. I was very lucky to get an agent, and the agent sold it to HarperCollins, and they asked me if it could be a series. And so I said, of course. Now, I had 2 small children and was working full-time as a teacher at that point, as a high school teacher. But I did it. And the books have, now there are 24 books in the series, and they have sold over 2 million copies in 27 countries. All because of that little white Mustang. And we can talk more about Mustangs, but I am happy to talk with anybody about traditional publishing, and because I don't know anything about independent publishing, and these guys can help you with that. But thank you for being here. Questions?
Yeah, any questions to start? Before I forget, the book is a whopping 77 pages long, and I'm doing a presentation on it at noontime today, and I do another one tomorrow, but I'm not sure what time. I think it's at 10. Interesting enough we were talking about, Terry and I were talking earlier about publishing, and I don't read very many books at all, much less write a book. So the foundation of this whole thing that came about with writing the book was that we had gotten our Mustang in 2017. I had done 3 Extreme Mustang makeovers. And I was Mustanger here this time last year, and I had the Pacer. And any of the people that were here last year, and the trainers that were here last year, when we unloaded them on Wednesday night, this one trotted around that round pen and never stopped. The next morning, he was still out. And so Thursday, he settled down to where he only marked back and forth in the trot, closest to the other 5 Mustangs. Thursday night, they did the drawing just like they did today. And being Lakota, being raised in the spirituality and the culture, I even speak the language somewhat, we are spiritual people and we pray. So I go out in this big open field with nothing there, and I say a prayer. And I asked Tukashila, walking tongue, God, look, I'm 71 years old. I don't think I really need that Pacer. If there's any way you can help me get around it, I'll be good with it. You know, you always have to be careful what you pray for.
That's right.
Because the answer is yes, I got the Pacer.
Yeah.
And I didn't even go in on Friday, except for my 1-hour session, and I didn't even pay any attention to him. I already knew where he was. I already knew where his mind was. These are 1-year-olds. The retention span is about 1.5 seconds. Trying to get any recognition out of them is a challenge in itself. And they are the best example of the spectrum. We've got the cream puffs down here. We got the fire-breathing dragons down at the other end. Anyways, on Sunday, when they auctioned them all off, we were all done with the training. I had gone in, and I was that person. I would come in around 6 o'clock in the morning. The first session was at 9. I would feed him by hand. It's all I wanted to do was to just let him recognize that recognition that it was me. And then at night, they didn't have any lighting. I went to this hardware store and bought this great big portable flashlight. It was like 1,500 watts or something. And shined it up on the ceiling that was tin, and it gave an ambient light, real soft ambient light. And I sat in the chair inside the ground pen and hand-fed him. And when I started to realize he would rather eat out of my hand than off the ground. So that was the first true recognition that I was getting from him. Getting through all of this, on Sunday, I decided to sit in the middle of the round pen with a lap full of hay, and if he wanted to come over and eat fine. For the first time, and Terry said, you need to tell the story. For the first time ever, that Mustang went behind me and rolled. He would not lay down, he would not roll because of his anxiety and where he was. Now the other Mustangs, the other 5 Mustangs, all would lay down with their head up. They wouldn't fall asleep all the way. With their head up, as long as the trainer wasn't in the round pen, because they're so guarded. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. At least he's rolling, he's that comfortable. He then walks right in front of me, closest point to the 5 Mustangs, stands there for maybe 2 minutes. And every bit as close as from me to that chair, he walked straight up to me, and he laid down. His head was still up, and now people are starting to walk over. Because we all knew the same thing. This was going to be a tough little booger. And then he laid his head down and he fell asleep. Now, for him to be that comfortable just said a whole lot about where the 2 of us were. Yeah, I got some scrubs, some touches, and some rubs, and whatever else. I was just interested in trying to get him to understand me understand him, and that I'm not a threat to him whatsoever. Now, he did it once, and then he did it twice. So, I got all finished, but by that time, people would come over, and the question was, do you have a book, do you have a DVD, or some CD, or something? No, it's just up here. We have what's called Team Papa Mike. It's my daughter and my granddaughter just starting into it, and then the young girl that was 12 when she started with me, she's 16 now, and I developed the way we work with Mustangs and horses. It's more about horse psychology than it is in the mental process than it is the traditional ways of pressure release, approach and retreat, and direct pressure. If you will come here at noontime, if you can, I'm going to peruse through the book and kind of show you the differences of what we're talking about. Things called tolerance and acceptance and trust. Ask, tell, demand. Low energy, high energy. Everything I do with any horse, whether it's Mustang or domesticated, I take that approach. And what happened was, the people came over and asked the question, I said no. And I don't give all the credit in the world where credit is due. Lisa Durson walked up to me after this all took place, and she says to me, you need to write a book. And my response was, I don't even read books. So that January, this is where I'm going with all this, that was in the fall, this time. In January, I told my daughter and my daughter and my wife, the way is complete. There isn't a horse that you can give me. I don't care that we can't get through to them. And people will ask the question, well, how long will it take? And my answer is, I have the plan, they have the schedule. And that's very important to me. So January, I sat down and I said, you know what, I'm going to write this damn book. And what was really cool, I found out Amazon has a book writing program. And I started looking that up, and it was a terrific outline on everything that you need to do in order to write a book. If you want a 5x7 versus 6x9 page, it talks about the presence, the table of contents, you know, it formats your stuff, everything. And what I did is I wrote the entire book longhand and put it on the dining room table. And when I got done, I stood there and looked at it and I said, this is a worse mess than what you got started with. How in the world are you going to organize this stuff? So I started making stacks of it. This probably should be in this chapter list. And then I put it all on Word, Microsoft Word. And then I gave it to 2 non-horse people and 2 horse people. Non-horse people because I wanted them to critique the grammar, the format, and whatever else. The horse people because they understand what I'm talking about. We all came back send you what's called an author's copy. And you can get as many of those as you want. They just got this band across the front of it, so it's not for sale. And I gave 2 to the non-horse and 2 to the horse. And we finalized it, and then we published it in April. And the biggest response I get back from them, and I'm not always sure I know what they're saying, is they say, you wrote just like you talked. It's like if we're sitting at the dining room table and I'm trying to explain how we see things, how the horse sees things. And like I said, if we get a chance, I'll give you a great story that's in the book about how this all came about, because it's even interesting to me, and I was deeply involved with it. So Amazon, if anyone ever had an interest, I would tell, now, Amazon gets a royalty off of the book. I don't care. I didn't write it to make money. I wrote it to help people that are stuck. In 2017, we worked with Journey. Since 2017, Team Pop and Mike, which is mostly me doing it, because I've been all over. I've been up in New England, I've been in Florida, Texas, Indiana, Ohio. Working with people that are stuck. Over 40 people. They call up and, hey, I got a problem. And 2 of the people that I know directly, I told them, I said, you need to buy the book, read it twice. First time just to enjoy it, second time to try to get something from it. And then I'll come up and I'll look at your Mustang. And they did it, and what a world of difference that it made. But I can tell, I wish there was a room full of people here that were interested in writing the books. And first thing I would tell them, it is amazing how well put together that program is. Now, I can reorder it at any time. And I can order as many copies as I want. I can order what they call author's copies. They're probably less than half the price that we're selling now. But what a neat opportunity, because if you have no idea that this is the thing to get into.
He mentions Amazon, and so we started publishing. My wife, when I told her to put up or shut up, she found a book and author event in we live in Mesa, Arizona. So that's in the east side of the Phoenix metro area. She found an author symposium, an author book festival in Orange, California, in October of 2019. So okay, let's go. So we went so we could learn and gather information. She found he found at Amazon. Now his books are primarily are going to be all words, just like he may have a few pictures from here, but they're going to be words. My wife's books, I say our books because I joke that I'm the workforce, and so because we go to rodeo events, we go to all kinds of different events, including farmers markets to sell our books. Our books that we get, we just recently found a offset printer that can compete with Amazon's price. And so we started buying through them, but for the last 4.5 years, we printed through Amazon, and then yes, we ordered our author copies, which are probably 1/3 the cost of what we sell the picture books for, which is competitive with all the other picture books that are out there. But then that allows us to be able to then go to events, sell them, and make a profit ourselves. But we went to that event in Orange, California. She got onto Facebook and got online and was really looking hard for other kinds of programs. And she found a lady whose name was April Cox. She has self-publishing made simple. And she has a 12-week class, 1 night a week, that is online, 1 hour and a half, 1 night a week for 12 weeks, And she takes you through all the different steps from concept all the way through writing, rough draft. Now, her focus is children's books. But the principles that she teaches, there are other people that write chapter books, or such as that still go through the program. They just don't have to worry about the illustration part, because we have to worry about the illustration part. Some people do their own illustrations when it comes to picture books. Some don't. As I told my wife, I said, well, if we're going to get into this, mind you, I've done different things in my life. I'm currently a contractor over there, commercial residential contractor. But I have a great friend of mine who's been my mentor for 25 years. Very back in the former life, and he and I have done landowners. He taught me a lot of good things. One of the important things he taught me was the importance of professionals. People who are professionals and dedicated. And so I said, well, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. I said, we're going to get a professional editor and have a professional editor. You work with that editor, and you have to do what you want. But the other thing, the grammar's right, everything's right, and make sure it's done. We're going to get a professional illustrator. And they'll illustrate. He said, well, you want to do watercolors? I don't want to do that. I said, okay, we're going to do a professional illustrator, and we want them to look professional. We want them to be able to open up and go, wow, that's really cool. That's like real life only in drawing. And those are the kind of comments that we've had. And so that's the approach that I took. That was one of my only condition with her was that we're going to do this professional so that they look professional and we have a professional presentation. Not like someone had an idea and did it all themselves and said, okay, I did book, I'm all done. And that's it. But no, so like I said, we're on book 7. She has 5 more book ideas that she's already written out for the rest of the series. And this has taken her really a long ways in her desire and thought. This is the most current one. It's our deal with rodeo royalty. She really had a blast interviewing, because for each of these books, she just didn't go, okay, look stuff up, review stuff. Remember when she did rodeo, she went and talked to those people who do those things, who do those events. Our 4th book is Mountain Busting the Bull. We talked, she interviewed bull riders. In fact, Stetson, I can't remember his name, but something Stetson. He wears red every time he rides. He's her favorite rider. Sometimes I get jealous at how much she talks about him. Anyways, but we also have a young man whose name is White Calvin. He just turned 11. Yeah, he just turned 11. And he's a steer rider. And he is fabulous. And he's sponsored. That's how much she gets into research for each book to make sure that not just what she remembers about doing those events or seeing people do those, but gets the information right, gets the research right. So when she did this one, she interviewed 24 to 30 different queens, princesses of various age ranges, different levels, sweethearts. And what that did is that has inspired her. This character right here is the first character we have is this young lady right here. This is Dee and her horse case. In our very first book, which is Barrel Racial Dream, which is the thing I like most, which is Barrel Racing. That's about her and her horse hand growing up doing that event. The next character, which I don't have that book right now because they're all on the table, is Henry. Henry is modeled after our son Ross, which you'll see him here. In fact, he's dressed like Henry. If you come out and look at the picture in the book, you'll see him and you'll, yeah, that's Henry. He's going to be helping present, he's our second son, he's high functioning autistic. I help him present with Charlie Sims during the autism equine clinic. But she introduced him as Henry and his horse, Top. Henry and Top. Haas is this horse. Henry and Top. That was the 3rd book. And what we did with that was, this is our logo right here. It's a book with 2 horses, one whispering the other, just 3 horse books. And we told him, and he's a great artist himself. Not to the point where he can do just right here, but he really grew with it. So we said, "Okay, Ross, we need a logo for a company." He said, "We're a company, and it has to do with books." So he drove up, he wrote 4 or 5 different ones, and we chose that. He drew our logo, and he said, "Hey, can I be in your books?" My wife said, "Why not?" So in the 3rd book, she wrote him in, created Henry and Tom, and actually created him as an autistic character. So starting in the 3rd book, each book she talks some facet about some character of autism. For example, in the Christmas book right here, there was a certain, in the beginning of the book, Henry shows up at Dee's barn, getting ready and just to see her, and they go for Arizona Christmas ride, but before they go, Dee says, here's some paint. We're painting the horse's Christmas colors. And he goes, "Ooh, I'm going to get dirty and yucky, it's wet, ooh." That's kind of, because just autistic people have different characters, different little things that bother them. In our Patriotic Day, it's about sound issues and loud noises. Some autistic kids don't like that. So that's what she does in each book. Now this one, we're going to go into royalty. She introduces Helen and Haas, and she's competing to become a rodeo queen. I believe she's the rodeo princess, and the next year she becomes the queen. Actually, I think in the book she doesn't become the queen. She's really going for that, but she becomes the queen. It's fiction. It's fiction, as you say. So, and in our reality, rodeo queens, it's about a 3-day competition. So in here we go through the day, but we don't do all the different things they do. This is to introduce what the rodeo royalty, kind of what they do, what it's about, some of the things that they do. But the point I was giving to you all came out, next circle all the way around, introducing this character. When she wrote this book, introduced this character, she thought, wow, I'm going to do an offshoot with this character after we've done this and do chapter books about Helen and Haas on the rodeo royalty path. So now she has an idea for anywhere between 4 and 6 chapter books that are going to be about her starting out as a sweetheart, I think it is, and then princess, and then whatever. There's one just below queen, and then queen, and different levels of queen. And so it's been a very inspiring thing for her. And the thing that I've enjoyed the most about it is my wife grew up, she was adopted into a family when she was 5, just too short 5. She hadn't learned to read yet. Now she reads like a bookworm, and just can't keep her nose out of the book, which is great. I love it. But her mother worked really hard on helping her bring up to grade level of speed. But she also grew up in a very, very hard, difficult environment. And her horse, Hank, she said, she'll tell you firsthand, he was her saving grace. I'm sure that this song is mostly about Mustangs, but it's about horses and the benefits of horses. I'm sure that she could say she's probably done some stuff with some Mustangs. But the best time that she'll tell you she had growing up was when she was with her horse, Hank. 5 minutes? Thank you. Or when she was in the rodeo with me. She has memories of them riding as a family on a Sunday afternoon up and down the dunes in Yuma, going on trail rides. And one of her favorites is a day that she was riding him through the pasture bareback and was just daydreaming. And the next thing she knew, she was over the fence on the ground because she wasn't paying attention. And he saw something he didn't like and turned. And she didn't. Interestingly enough, and this is, I'm interested in learning to read your book of the way because my wife and I have frequently talked. We raised 6 kids. 4 of them with son level, especially. Only one's not on their own. Our son Ross, he still lives with us. But he's decently independent. But my wife and I lately, in looking towards our time out together, have talked. What did you want to do when you were when you were a kid, what did you want to do? I said, well, there was only two things I wanted to be. I either want to be a rancher or an astronaut. I said, I haven't been to space yet, it's a little too late for me to go because I'm diabetic and they won't let me go to diabetic. So time to become a rancher. And so I'm going to do his boat the way because, you know, I know that the way that a lot of people, I don't want to say break horses because that's a bad way, train horses. I don't believe in breaking horses. You know, horses should be a partner. Like my wife's horse was for her. And I'll try not to get emotional because I didn't grow up with her. I met her as an adult. But everything she's talked about and how her horse helped her, it makes me a little emotional. She'll cry when she talks about it. But her sister, her older sister, tried to ride him and would just be rough on and hit him with the leads and try to get him to do it. He'd far all the time. Her older brother would try and ride him, and he would fight. She could get on him, and it was like they were soulmates. And people hated it when she showed up to a rodeo because they were sort of go, great, she's here. We might as well go home because they know she's going to win. Because that's how good of a team her and Craig were. But that's also how much healing he did.
I just wanted to say I'll be back at noontime and really go over the book. And it's a whopping $14. Amazon's $14.75 plus freight. I have no shame, but it's there. And I'm telling you, the response back on the book was that this was a lot of fun to read. It was easy to read. But I, as experienced as trainers are, and I've had trainers buy it, and some reasonably big names buy it, came back and said, geez, I didn't realize that's pretty cool. So it's an opportunity.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left. So all I'll tell you is if you'd like to talk about my books, they are perfect for kids, but my oldest reader that I've heard from is 91, so that will work. And right around the corner, plus, I have pocket ponies, little toys, for any kids who want to come up and chat. They don't have to buy a book. I'm a former teacher. I will work with the kids and give them a pocket pony. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming, and I'm going to be out there all weekend. I'll be back on the panel tomorrow at 10 and answer any of your questions anytime.